Good evening, Yellow Leaf. I want to be encouraging to you today as your pastor as we, and not just Yellow Leaf, but whoever else is tuning in with us. We're welcoming you as you tune in with us this Wednesday evening. I know there's a lot of unsettling things, so I want to be encouraging and brief. Brief is going to be the hard part, encouraging probably not so much. But I want to be encouraging to you tonight as you're gathered around in your homes, and I know that a lot of unrest and unsettledness. I know some families are getting closer together, and some are experiencing maybe some trying times being together, and I hope that God will use that as you begin to spend more time together. And here, let me challenge you to do something too, parents. If you are, and like you, like me, most of our children are homeschooled now for kind of for the most part. Go ahead and include the Bible now. You have the opportunity. We've talked about we wish the Bible was included. You've got that opportunity now. It's a key time if you begin to share the Word of God with your family. I just want to say a thank you for our church family. Some probably didn't get the message. I was a little bit behind on getting the message as far as getting out to Oxford and supporting our hospital staff and all those who work and the patients, and I hope you may get to see that maybe on the news tonight. I have no idea, but just be in prayer for those workers. They are probably experiencing fatigue, no telling what all other emotions are going through, and they're basically putting their life on the line, and maybe even a family member's life by serving. And so think your nurse and doctor and those who help take and sanitize the facility, and just those smiling faces that greet you when you come in, and just maybe pick up the phone tonight or send a text to somebody you know that does that kind of a work and service, and thank them for what they're doing as we try to express that today at Oxford. Good to see these different churches come out in large numbers and do that. And sorry if I didn't get the message out to you soon enough, but I think our presence was known, and I think that they had gratitude from it was expressed from Yellow Leaf and other churches here in Oxford. So grateful to see the family of God come together that way. Another thing before I share a little devotional thought, Mississippi Baptist has offered a challenge to our churches, and I think it's great. It's 12 at 12. I understand that to be 12 minutes of prayer time beginning at 12 o'clock every day. So if you could do that, just spend time talking to the Lord and listening to the Lord and obeying His voice at noontime, just maybe before you have that snack or whatever it is that you do for lunch. So just kind of a encouraging word, something I've been kind of on my mind and thinking about. If you watch the news all day, it will just eat you alive. I don't know who can survive long periods of time of the news. It's so depressing. But anyway, something I've been kind of thinking about, encouraging, is light. Light was introduced into the world way back in day one of creation. And matter of fact, I'll read that to you in Genesis chapter 1. On the very beginning, it says in Genesis 1:1, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. Then God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light." Verse 4, "God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. And it says, verse 5, "God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning one day." I could almost kind of picture this, kind of like you'd see sometimes when in the older movies, or maybe you have a ceiling fan that has a little pull chain. I could just picture being in the total dark and reaching and pulling that little chain, and just light happens. But God spoke, and there was light. I could just imagine how that must have been as that light just illuminated the entire place. And God really doesn't need light. He sees everything. Everything's illuminated to Him. There's no dark places. You can't find a dark hole somewhere and hide from God. We understand that through scriptures. But I praise the Lord that sometimes I find myself in the dark, praying to the Lord at my bedside, or walking at night, or maybe in a parked car. Sometimes what I heard on the radio, or maybe I got news that something took place in somebody's life, and I'm just grateful that I can pray to the God of light, and even in the middle of darkness. But just thinking about light, created on day one, it is still very important today. Nothing's to rise without light. And I think how light brightens up our life. It's amazing what God does with light. You know, when you look out at night, and sometimes, especially on that when the moon is not out and it's cloudy out, it's just so dark you can't hardly see anything unless you've got a street light on or something like that. And it's shady and kind of grayscale at the very best on the outside. And you just think about what the light lightens up and we get to see and get to enjoy. You know, once the dawning sun touches the outside of the world and that light begins to expose, we understand a little bit about this light as you begin to see the blossoms this time of the year. Some of those in purples, and even the blossoms on the dogwood tree. Just grateful things, you know. Maybe the trees, and now the green colors are coming in, and if there's light in the sky, you begin to see without the clouds, the blue hues of the blue colors is so attractive to the eye. And even thinking about the different colored birds, and just so many things that we take for granted that light exposes to us, a part of God's creation. You know, look on down in the verses in Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 says, "Then God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens, and to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens, and give light on the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. God planned to use lights to measure times and seasons. And even today, we measure days by the sun. How many times we go around, however that works out. In verse 16 said he made the stars also, even the lesser lights at night, the stars that radiate in the night sky. I just think about all those glimmering stars. I don't know how you can get under the stars and look up at night on a clear night, especially in the wintertime. I don't know how you can say that there's no God. With the galaxy as deep and as wide, there's no way that was made by any accident. You know, God created a galaxy so far that I don't even think that we can even possibly think that we can see the ends of it, even with a telescope. That's how great our God is. You know, some of the stars, I even think about how far away they are. God could order one of those stars to move. Matter of fact, he'd call it by name. It says in Psalms 147:14 says verse 4 says, he counts the number of the stars and he gives names to all of them. Wow. God could order that star by name to move, and we wouldn't see it for years because there's so many light years away. That's how great our God made in his creation. Huge. Maybe that's a Donald Trump word, huge. But I just think about him even naming the stars. You know, my grandmother, I heard, had trouble naming her 12 children. Just imagine the innumerable stars. I don't say innumerable because God's got every one of them numbered. And they all have a name, and God named every one of those stars. I could just imagine. I'd love just to sit and, if you have eternity with the Lord, just sit and listen to all the names of the stars. You know, in verse 16 of Genesis 1, it says God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. When the moon's full, it kind of drowns some of the stars out, and it projects kind of a glow, and it reminds us of the hope that the morning is coming. And it's just amazing how God created even this moon to affect the earth and the tides and all of those other things. And I'm trying not to spend too much time. I know I'm already at 9 minutes, but in verse 18, he said they're govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. There was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. It's encouraging that God didn't leave us without light. Even in night, he gave us some light to enjoy. So I just want to encourage you, get out. Look at the lights that God has given to us. And think about the vastness and the greatness of God, the ability of God. Even in the midst of times it seems a little bit dark, I just think about God's creation and His beauty. I just want you to get out and enjoy that. I'm not telling you to get out and to do things you're not supposed to do socially right now. But maybe this is a good time for you to get out and just enjoy the beauty of God's creation. Maybe tonight, just sneak a peek at the stars. Just turn the lights off and look up. And just thank God that He created you to enjoy that. He created that for you to enjoy, however you want to put it. But God is greater than COVID-19. He's greater than any problems that you're facing. And God is a great God, and He loves you. And I just want you to know that. Your pastor loves you, your church loves you, and your Lord loves you. God bless, and goodbye.